I'm Telana Simpson, and this is Let's Talk Courageous Communication. In this episode, I'm not actually going to be the one doing the interviewing. Today, I am in the hot seat with a colleague, Ella Ray, who is a personal branding expert, and she is the one asking me questions. Ella has a wonderful podcast called The Personal Brand Era, where she is interviewing people and discussing concepts that will help us to become global leaders in our niche. She focuses a lot on holistic personal branding coaching and is interviewing some amazing people. I was very lucky to be sitting opposite her where she interviewed me for a change and has agreed to allow me to share the podcast with you here on Let's Talk Courageous Communication. We cover topics like understanding what courage is and authenticity, and also the main reason why people struggle so much with confidence. And also my favorite topic, how to have more courageous conversations that really, really matter. So please enjoy the conversation I had with Ella Ray.
Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I have a guest with me today. It's Telana Simpson, a dynamic transformational courage coach who is helping professionals to overcome self-doubt and fear of failure by building courage, confidence, and their ability to have courageous conversations that count. The very first question I would love to ask you, Telana, is what does it mean to be authentic and why is it important?
So I think it's really, really important to be authentic because it takes less energy and it also has so many benefits. So when we're not authentic, we're trying to be something we're not. We're putting on a mask. We're looking more at what we think other people want us to be. We're trying to be what they want us to be.
Yeah.
It makes sense. So we're people pleasing. And because we do that, we're not being true to ourselves, we're being more other focused, and that takes a lot of energy because you've got to now double check. So what do they want me to say? What do they want me to do? Am I doing that? What does that facial expression mean? What is that? So all of that extra work takes energy. And it takes energy away from you expressing what you've come here to share. It takes energy. So being authentic to me is just being real. Being in the moment and saying, this is how I feel right now, this is what's going on, this is what I know, what I don't know, whatever it is. It also doesn't mean when you're authentic that you share everything all the time. It's not about transparency. That's what we call more about transparency, and it's different to integrity. Integrity is like being ethical, and these are my values, and this is what I'm doing. Authenticity is saying, this is the values that I live by, but you know what, sometimes I slip. And today I slipped. Yeah. I'm sorry, I've stuffed up, I've made a mistake, I haven't performed my best, whatever it is. That is a way more being authentic. So it's not trying to be something we're not, and that also doesn't mean that we don't strive to improve and get better. It's just being who we are. So all of our energy, all of our mental capacity, emotional energy, life force energy, physical energy, goes to whatever we want to be contributing to this moment. Because then we're not double checking, am I pleasing this person or not? Doesn't mean you go around not pleasing everybody yet. I just want to, because some people then say, well, you're going to become this horrible person. It's not that. Well, authenticity is not arrogance. It's not being rude and just speaking your mind all the time. You still take people into consideration. So I think you're getting a sense it's a complex ability or way of being, and yet it's not that complex. It's just showing up, being real, who you are in this moment, and being able to do what you need to do. It takes a lot of strength and vulnerability, but it's way, way more worth it than I think the other options. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. And if someone is struggling with being authentic, if they really notice that in the moment, for example, when they are recording a video, let's say it's a female coach, a business coach, and she is really struggling to know the line between being authentic and showing too much of her personal life maybe. How does one really manage this balance of being authentic, not showing too much, but just enough and in the end, it's all about building trust with the people that you want to reach, right? Do you have any kind of tips for someone who might be struggling with that?
Boundaries. And so it's really, I think the tip or the way we can be more authentic is to understand what boundaries are and what's appropriate for that context we're in. There's also levels of disclosure, right? There's things I would share, with a beggar on the street that is very different to what I would share with my most intimate partner, which is still different to what I would share with my coach or therapist.
Yeah.
So, you have all these different levels, you very surface things that with colleagues and friends and then close friends and your best friend. So it's understanding that because of the nature of the relationship, you will share at a different level to a different depth. And that's okay, and you're still authentic at that level of what you're sharing. So for an example of a coach with a client, there's a level of sharing about your personal life that may be appropriate for that situation, that client. But in coaching, it's very much never about you. So if you're sharing it to make the focus about you, that's not useful. But if you're sharing as an example, I find I share a bit, but then I'm not coaching, I'm mentoring. I'm like, I can hear from this person, they need an example of what's possible or what someone else has done. I think, well, perhaps you need mentoring now. We need to find you some people who have done this. I've done it, so if you would like, I can share what works for me, but maybe there's someone else we can also ask what works for them. And then we go back to you in the coaching and say, with that as examples, what's going to work for you? That's a real, understanding. Even the coach says the boundaries. When am I coaching? When am I mentoring? When am I teaching? So having all that understanding of boundaries, what's me, what's not me, what's appropriate for this context, and the different levels of disclosure, for me allows you to be authentic at the appropriate level for that relationship and for the role you play.
Do you feel like nowadays on social media, we are kind of pressured to disclosing too much of our private life or personal life, and that we get a lot of praise for that? I specifically noticed that on TikTok, to be honest, where people are disclosing very private things about their own lives, and it feels almost like you are celebrated for disclosing too much, right? That we would have never shared if we think back when the internet was not a thing just yet, right? We were taught by our parents to never share such private things. But nowadays with social media, I feel the things have changed.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point, because that's again to me just comes to what's appropriate for what level of disclosure. So my sense is you might ask me a few things that are going to be quite personal for me that, through this interview, but I'm willing to share aspects of it that I think are appropriate for the point of, as you said, building trust. But it doesn't mean I have to share everything. So that's, I suppose, transparency is understanding. Authenticity is not the same as being transparent. And transparent is, I think what's driving that is an unhealthy aspect of it. You're getting praise and you're living off that, like, it's other esteem in my framework of how I see things. You're living off that feedback, right? But then you need to, how do you get more of that feedback? Because if you stay at that level, you may not get, because now it's the thing with social media, the beast side of it, is we want to be stimulated. It's a one-way stimulation. So if it's not sensational, we're not getting that buzz as a viewer. We're not being entertained. So we're expecting people to create these sensational personal expressions, I suppose.
And would you say...
Yeah?
No, go on.
No, so I think if the person's doing it for the wrong reason, if they're doing it because then they're getting a moment of feeling like they have value, it's not healthy and it's not sustainable. There will be issues in other aspects and then further down the road, I would think. But if they're doing it in a way where it's a conscious, intentional sharing to make a point,
yeah,
and the level of disclosure is appropriate and within context, it could be useful because it does build trust. So it's this fine line, I suppose, of finding, and I think it all starts with intention. It's like, what are you trying to do in this moment? What is it that is feeding you? You know, the disclosure, are you getting then a sense of value, or are you actually adding value to others in a way that you believe is your contribution?
It almost seems like, if you say transparency is different from being authentic, but almost seems like if you are too transparent, you lose authenticity. Your authenticity, because authenticity, as you said, means having boundaries. So if you let your boundaries slip, you are being too transparent in whatever level is appropriate or not appropriate in that sense.
Yeah.
Yes, you are kind of losing your authenticity, and then you feel bad about yourself, and all the negative thinking about yourself will immediately or instantly start, right? Because you have given too much that you maybe didn't want, but you are praised for it. But when you are alone with yourself, you don't feel good about yourself because you don't have that instant gratification with you when you are alone. So I feel like people can lose a lot of authenticity when they are too transparent, or on the other hand, not transparent enough, because how are you supposed to build trust if you are not transparent enough? And this enough is also a very individual thing, right, for each and every person.
Yeah, and I would change it. Instead of trying to be transparent enough, try to think about, am I being authentic in this moment around this topic, or am I sharing realness? Because remember, the opposite, when you're not being authentic, you're being fake. You think of a fake handbag versus the real deal, the real brand. It's a fake, it's a ripoff. You're trying to be something else. So that's again the other focus, the other esteem, people pleasing. And yeah, if your social media expression is around that, it opens you up also, I think you've become more vulnerable in the negative. It's not like the true vulnerability that takes strength, right? It's I can't think of the word that it is, but it's almost like you will feel less, I think that's what you were saying, less safe, because there's something about having boundaries. Boundaries doesn't mean you don't share who you are.
Yeah.
And you can't, be intimate and vulnerable and own your mistakes. It's just when you have a sense of what's me and not me, and where I start and finish and what's appropriate for this context, it actually frees you up so much more. And behind all of that then would be your sense of self-esteem. I think your sense of worth as a person, how you've constructed that. If you've constructed that you need other people to like you, so it's a condition of your worth, you're going to do all these crazy things. And then it's if you don't get that, what happened is we had a worldwide power outage, because in South Africa right now, which is where I am, we have big electricity problems. So we often think, like, if we have no power for like 3 weeks and you can't then go online because there is no internet, there is no battery power, what happens then to your sense of value and worth? Like, you're not getting that feedback. If that would be a problem, then there's a problem. But if it's no problem, you see it as, a break and you can concentrate on other things, then I think you're doing okay. But we need to learn how to have boundaries, the different levels of disclosure that's appropriate, and really just to show up and be real and understand who is safe and healthy to express what with, for what intention. It's a level of just awareness, consciousness to our everyday interactions.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And I myself, like my clients and so many people, it is a constant learning machine, if you will, to, even if you reach that level of boundaries that you feel safe with, I think it's always kind of a muscle that you need to keep up with. You need to train that over and over again to keep that level, to not lose it again, because that can happen very quickly if you don't pay attention, you are not aware of your own boundaries and values and everything. And I would love to ask you, if you had to write a book this year, what would the topic be about? Would it be about authenticity, or would it be something else?
Oh, it's a good question, because I've been thinking about it, because it's I do have a book. I know that we all say we do, and I think most people do have something to share. And I've been grappling with, how do I present what I do, how do I package it? Is it around being authentic and all the skills to that, to be real? But I have this thing about courage, because I think it takes courage to be authentic, right? So always seem to go back to courage and communication. So I think the book would be much more around, how do we change the world by having more courageous conversations?
I love
because
that.
I think a lot of our problems that we have, whether it's at home, in our private, personal relationships, whether it's at school, or whether it's in the boardroom, or whether it's in the government and all the whole world, all the different governments that are arguing with each other, and that the wars that are going on. I just wonder if we actually started having the really important conversations, but in a constructive way. They are the conversations that count, but they are so difficult because there's humans involved. And as humans, we are, we're complex beings, and we all have emotions, and we all have what we think is right, and our way of the view of the world should be there. So how do we have these conversations where we can understand each other more and still meet each other's needs, so that we can actually go forward? We could make this world in some way a better world, a better place, or just maintain it. There's so much beauty and wonder in this world, and we seem to just be destroying each other and the world. So yes, I think my book would be around that concept of how courageous conversations could make a difference in our lives and in our world. And we just need to start having them like one conversation at a time. And I think there would be like a ripple effect. So
yes,
I think that should be the book.
I really love that. And I think, just as you said, like, emotions are the main reason why we are not having courageous conversations with each other, or why they don't go so well like we want them to go, right? Where we slip, when certain emotions hit our filters and minds, we are kind of sometimes not really able to lead a conversation, right? We kind of really slip and we fall. We lose the ability to really lead. And I think with the right communication skills, which is also one of the things that I do in my coaching, it's really important also, is that you learn the muscle or the skill, you train your muscle to not slip and to continue to lead, even if you are in your most emotional state, right? Because if you lose the state of leading, you could lose a lot more than just the conversation or being right? You could lose a whole relationship. You could lose a client. You could lose your job altogether, right? If your communication skills are not kind of on the level where it needs to be. So I love and would love to read your book, absolutely. if you write it, you have to let me know. I love everything about communication and how to improve that kind of area of our lives. It's really, really important.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I don't know if you heard them, my dogs were agreeing with you.
Oh, awesome.
Barking. But absolutely, the communication is so important. And I think that's why I say they are the conversations that count, and why we need to have courage to have them. It's because so much is at risk. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean we don't have them. What I find is so many people then back away and they won't have the conversation because there's too much at risk. Mm-hmm. You're actually risking more, I think, in the end, right? So yeah. Learning how to have those conversations, because it's just a skill and it's just a muscle, as you say, the strength and the ability, the courage to have them. Just takes practice and learning some skills and some strategies. So yeah, I will let you know when that book comes out. Yeah.
Definitely. And let's say you earn 100 million with your book. What would you spend that money on?
Sure. So I've always said if I won the lotto, and that would be, you know what I mean? So even better if I earned it.
Yeah.
A big portion of it I would reinvest straight away and try and reinvest it to double it, because there's so much I would love to do in this world, and having the funding obviously just helped that. So big part of that would be reinvested so that it doubled, and then I would take some more and then reinvest that, so it's always growing. But besides just a few things around, like I was thinking I'd love a Jimny. I've got a dream trip in Africa that I want to do in a 4x4, and I've chosen I wanted to get a little Suzuki Jimny. And I had these visions of me sitting on the roof of my Jimny, coaching someone with a giraffe walking behind me, and I'm don't look at the giraffe, look at me. You know what I mean?
I love that.
So yeah, I've got a little fund going that I'm saving up for that. So I would fund that, I suppose, and gift some people around me. But I'd also I would like to make my life a bit easier, so a personal chef would be high on my list. I think this is, but it's a lot of money, you said, that I would have earned. So personal chef that would just help to really with the meals that I like to eat, and that just frees me up to do more of the other work that I want to do. So, but then I think once I've got doubled the money, there's a whole lot of projects I would love to invest in. I'll give you an example of one. There's a property that I'm looking after for our family, and that area of Johannesburg, or actually quite extensive in our country at the moment, we have a big problem with illegal dumping of rubbish. So I would love to I've started a project called, to clean that area, and we go as volunteers, got a group of volunteers, we go and we clean up some of these dump sites together with the municipality. And at the same time, while we're visible, we're educating people why that's wrong and the health implications and how they should be doing, better waste management. So I would love to be able to back that project, and really make it grow and have bigger impact, because I know that impacts the crime in the area. Where there's crime, there's more crime, and it will help people learn the value of looking after the environment that impacts nature and all that. So that's some of what I would do with that kind of funding.
Yes, and if people want to support you with that project, I will leave all the links in the description, so you can give the support that you want to give as a listener of this podcast. Yes, I absolutely support projects like these. I love that. I hear you talk a lot about confidence, right? Courage and confidence. Can you tell us why people are struggling with confidence, and what is the difference really between confidence and courage?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question. And confidence is our belief in our ability, right, to do it. It's like when we have confidence in ourselves, we believe we can do what it is that we need to do. So it's often when people ask me, like they want me to help them with their confidence, I say, in what? because it's very much a doing thing. And I think, so I might jump between those two parts of the question. What stops people from building confidence and growing it is often the misunderstanding between confidence and esteem. They are very different aspects of ourselves, but they're very misunderstood. And very few people have ever sat down and say, what are these two concepts? Our self-esteem and our self-confidence. The only thing that's the same, if you look at the language, is the self, me, but esteem and confidence are different words. And esteem is about our beingness, our worthiness as a human being. It's the meanings we give to that concept. And then confidence is about our doingness. It's our belief in our ability to do in this world. So you can have a general sense of confidence in yourself because you've done a lot, so you're confident that you can rely on yourself. You're confident that you're resourceful, that you can find your way and learn and develop what you need to in order to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Courage, on the other hand, so now you mentioned courage. Courage is our inner strength, our capacity to face a risk, to face something that is fearful, that we're scared of, but we know we need to do. So we usually, I had to really start to unpack what's the difference between courage and bravery. Now, bravery is, we say that person's brave, it's because they just do something that for us would take courage to do. There's a difference. Brave is when people do what they need to do, but they don't have the map that is dangerous. That there's a risk. They've learned the skills and abilities, and they've got the capacity to do it. The opposite, on the other side, would be foolhardy. People that are doing something that they haven't developed the capacity for. So then they're more at risk. They're going to more likely hurt themselves or
Yeah.
Fear is just telling us there's a risk here. We need to be prepared. So courage is our capacity, that strength that we can muster up that helps us to take the steps to do the preparation so that we can do what we need to do that has a risk attached to it. So confidence is part of that. Is we develop a confidence in our ability to handle situations. So therefore that would help me to be more courageous if I am more confident in myself. That I can, find a resource, I can call help. So I don't know if that answers your question then in terms of so why people are battling with their confidence. It's because they're mixing it up with esteem. And they're not. The other part is they're not willing to do the work it takes to develop confidence. Confidence is earned. Esteem isn't. It's just a given in my world. But confidence, you actually have to practice. You have to. So a lot of people you're talking about, the audience for this podcast are probably coaches themselves and entrepreneurs, business owners. They need to start getting in front of cameras. I mean, everything now is more and more camera, and I find a lot of people fear this. I can tell you 20, 30 years ago, I never would have even volunteered to be on a podcast show. Never mind, here I am, enjoying it. But I'm so self-conscious and lack the confidence in myself to be able to handle this, and the authenticity, all of the stuff we've been talking about. But people need to understand that if you want to develop your ability to be on camera and to be able to talk freely and answer questions, for example, in an interview, or just pitch what you're offering, you need to then get in front of the camera, actually practice pitching what you need to do. The more you have to just do it. The confidence only comes from the actually doing. And so the courage often helps us take that first step to start the process of building the confidence in, for example, being on camera, presenting on camera, or marketing ourselves in social media and that.
Absolutely. So from what I understand, first has to come the self-esteem. And you said it is a given. From what I know about self-esteem is that you get it sort of from your parents in the first place. They build your self-esteem, or they don't build it and destroy it in a way, right? So you have to have kind of a self-esteem, and if you don't have it, if parents didn't build it for you, you have to find ways to build your self-esteem first before you can add on the courage, before courage can be present, right, in your life, to do courageous things, right, to take risks, right, and to leap even if you have fears and doubts and stuff like that. And even after courage is present, you still, as you said, need to practice and do and be okay with being bad at first, right? And you have to overcome that level to become good, and then you have to overcome that level as well to become great, and then to become excellent, right? You have to take inventory of your courage and use it as fuel and energy to do the things to actually come to that excellent level, right? Where most people want to be, but as you said, don't want to do the actual work, which at the end, when you are at level bad, you don't have any confidence, obviously, because everybody understands that and has most probably felt in their lives, I don't have any confidence when I'm bad at something, right? They would never advertise that skill, right, that they are bad at. But once they get to the next level of being good, they kind of start developing the confidence. Oh, I'm actually good at it, right? And they kind of ask themselves, what else can I do? Can I do more? Can I be better? And so they take, again, the courage to build to the next level, and so their confidence also grows. And I totally agree with you. I see that all the time. Like, people are really mixing these two things up, the self-esteem with the confidence, and this is a big issue that I noticed just in general. Not being precise with the language and not knowing the meaning of words will bring you in big trouble, and most of the times in your life, right? Whether it is communication and conversation, once again, with people, right? With family, friends, clients, whoever that is, if communication is not clear and precise in the words that you use, like the results will be also random, unclear, not precise. So that kind of is like one big bucket that people need to understand. And I love this conversation.
Yeah, and I was going to say, just, one of our downfalls is not being precise on our language if we don't understand the different terms. But it's also the most wonderful thing, because then you can change your life. You can literally change your life by unpacking those terms, by learning what the truth is behind that and what it actually means. Just that, I spend about 2 hours usually with people, helping them unpack the difference between esteem and confidence. And I find from there, their whole life flips. It's like the most amazing things start to, come from that distinction, from really understanding what I call true self-esteem is versus confidence. And that esteem is, I see it more as just our human beingness has value. It's about how we add the value to the world. And then our confidence in how we express it will go up and down based on how we practice. So,
I find it interesting that you say bring the value, as I also noticed that whenever people are starting out a business, especially, they tend to want something, right? We all want something, but the main thing that people want is that something is given to them, right? And they don't seem to quite understand that in order to get something, you have to first give something. You have to open up yourself, be authentic, communicate clearly, give value, help others, and then you will build trust, and thus your business will grow. I think for many people, and for me myself, when I started, it was a big issue too. I did understand that. I'm a natural giver, helper. That's just like, since I'm a kid, it was easy for me. But still, to have that switch, flip into actionable steps is very difficult for many people. I noticed that. And so it is really important to, as you say, to focus on the value that you can provide first, not so much worry about what's in it for me, you know. You have to have boundaries at the same time. You cannot work for free. That's not how you build a business. On the other side, right? You kind of have to communicate clearly, put your boundaries in place, right? But still not worry too much about what's in it for you. Because when you have a passion and a vision and a mission that you're on, you will be naturally inclined to help first, right? You know exactly what I can help you with is so important, so great, that I'm not worried about anything else. I just want you to have it because it's so amazing. You need to have it, you know? I totally agree with that.
Super. Yeah, I've got to add value in some way. And then I think that's, you know, in terms of marketing, that's a lot about how do I show you what value I can add through, say, my coaching work if you don't have some sense of the value. So either I've got to communicate the benefit very clearly and what you will gain from coaching with me, or give you a taste of it. And I think that's, you know, social media is a great way of allowing us to share things, as well as offering, like I offer a guide on 7 tips for more courageous conversations. So you can just go to my website and download that, but it's my way of trying to offer something that will get you, add value immediately. Those are like the most important things for me that help, you know, have more courageous conversations. And if you like that, then maybe you'll want to, you know, read a few more of my articles or
and also
things like that,
be part of the Bravery School, and I want to know about that more.
So Bravery School is my membership site that we meet once a week, and we're going to be starting soon towards the end of February for this year. It's 22 modules that I've worked out in terms of how we develop our capacity to live more courageously. It's like the aspects that we need. So it comes down to that foundation we were talking about earlier around self-esteem and confidence. You've got to get that clear. There's a few other aspects around just self-leadership. How do we manage ourselves? How do we manage our emotions? And then how do we take it the next step? How do we engage with people in our relationship skills, our communication skills? And all of this with the slant of building that courage muscle, because it is like a muscle. And understanding a big part of being courageous, of courage, is purpose. So we touch on purpose. There's a whole lot of aspects, and we develop grit, and the growth mindset is also a big part of it. How do we add all those elements together? So we learn that in a way where we can come out of Bravery School with the skills and the strategies to live more courageously in our lives and really get to enjoy life from that place, that safe, secure, courageous place.
I want to make a little shift to another topic because I'm very, very curious about who inspired you the most in your life to become that type of coach that you are today.
Sure, I think there's been a few people, like I'm trying to think who inspired me the most. It's hard to narrow it down. I don't know if it's just because I've just been lucky that I've had so many, people, and I've really reached out to a lot of people when I've really needed it. I know when I was younger, my mom was my inspiration. My father passed away, and just how she handled that, and kept our house and kept us in school and got a job and that. So she inspired me, just her resilience and her total support for everything we've ever wanted to try. Like, she's always been behind us, saying go, and and engaging with whatever we're offering the world in whatever way. So my mom, but I was thinking in terms of later on, like in the last couple of years, when I've really started to find, I think, my niche, this area around courage and communication. It's been, I had a coach, Michelle Duval, she was one of the trainers that taught me a lot about coaching. But then I wanted to be coached by her. And she helped me a lot with, other aspects in terms of my personal development. Huge impact in me overcoming my own self-consciousness, my fear of conflict, my all of that affected my health even. So she really helped me with, and there were a few other coaches I also worked with, but she, I know, made a huge impact in the shift in my thinking and in my own development. And then there's also been another person, Paul Myberg. He's just in terms of, like, I see him as a spiritual mentor and friend, and he really inspires me in he was very direct and very to the point that it sometimes feels like but I value that, because there's so few people in my life that will call me out on my stuff. You know what I mean? There's so much value in that when someone says, "Hey, you said this and you're doing that." Like, come on now, what are you about? So having someone in my life like that, but as well as his depth of understanding of concepts and his challenge to me to be, so I don't know if that's maybe inspiring or just the value of a truthful mentor, someone who's really strong in what they do. I'm trying to think, it's inspiring, and there's just been so many different aspects.
So it was more impactful than inspiring?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think, like, I find I had a friend who cycled, she was going to cycle around, or she cycled around the country. That was inspiring to me, like that she got on a bicycle and she did the whole country, and then she got on a motorbike and did the whole of Africa.
Awesome.
Also, just got something here. So that I found inspiring, that as a single woman, she got on a motorbike and drove through deep, dark Africa and done all these amazing things. I've got someone else who went on a scooter from Cape Town all the way up to Dublin, and through that journey, he's actually ended up very ill and they caught the virus too long, and it affected his eyesight. He's now blind.
Oh.
Known as the blind scooter guy. He is such an inspiration, because even with that impediment now, it's not there. He's taught me more about communication just by the questions he asks. Because obviously we talk and we don't explain enough, that someone who doesn't have the visual sense. But understanding that, it actually improves your communication in general.
Mm-hmm.
Be more specific about what you're talking about. So, but the way he's tackling life and going on adventures still, even without his sight. So that's how I say, I don't know if there's one person. There's different aspects that I find so inspiring. I think of my cousin, she had health challenges and she changed her diet, and it benefited her. That for me is inspiring, to see someone. So I think it's a lot of people in a lot of ways.
So you find it inspiring when people help you expand your range of thinking or action. Yes. So freedom, I would say freedom does inspire you when someone finds more freedom to do something, right?
Yes, or tackles a challenge in a way that they actually overcome it. I mean, I'm thinking of the person who has changed their diet and overcome, it's overcome health challenges and that. So I find that inspiring, that people will. And my clients, I mean, if I really start to think about it, I've had some amazing clients that just are speaking up more in their homes, and that's inspiring, that they're taking, what they learn and they're putting it into action, and they are voicing themselves. I listened on the radio the other day. There was a whistleblower, because we're having a lot of problems in our country, and there was a lady talking about the challenges that she's facing since she stood up and pointed out some corruption in her company. that's inspiring that she even spoke up, you know what I mean, and is now tackling. And then there was people that were phoning in to support her, because she's battling to support herself because of the repercussions of speaking out. Oh, so really, I think what inspires me is how people tackle life. They don't give into it. They dust themselves off, pick themselves up, and try again.
Courage again, courage again.
Right?
It
is. It must just be my thing, hey? Yeah.
I'd say so, yeah. And if you could be remembered for one thing in this life, what would it be?
That I was kind. I would love for people to remember me for my kindness, and kindness and toughness. I think if I could put it like that, because I know I've had this feedback like I'm really strong and straightforward sometimes, but for me it's important to have those courageous conversations, right? To stand up for something you believe in and to speak up. And there's obviously how you do that. That's the skill. There is a grace to it where you can still be effective and maintain relationships. So if I could be remembered for anything, I would hope that it would say she was tough. She really stood up for what she believed in, but she was so kind as she did it. I really think kindness is something to strive for and to contribute. It would make life a lot easier if more people were more kind, I think.
I totally agree with that. And I love how you phrase it, that you want the marriage of those two. You want to be strong and tough in what is important, and you want to be able to speak up about it, which is, I find, a little bit difficult nowadays, like free speech and all that is slowly dying seemingly, but to marry that to kindness and not aggressiveness or passive aggressiveness, or the things that we tend to see not only on social media but on news and everywhere, how things are being taken and how people react to it. And I absolutely love that you want to react to it with kindness and actually lead people, most probably with courage and self-esteem and confidence, through difficult conversations and through difficult situations, which I find incredibly valuable.
If I could achieve that, if I'm on my deathbed and look back, I would think I would have lived a good life. Yeah.
I love that. What is currently your biggest challenge in life or as a coach, and how are you tackling it and how are you dealing with it?
What is my current biggest challenge? There's a physical challenge that we experience in our country right now. We have 3 years of corruption and really poor management. Our Eskom that provides us with electricity is falling apart, and it's not able to provide enough electricity. So the only way to keep the electricity going is to load shed, they call it. So they turn off our electricity. There's a schedule, and depending how bad the infrastructure is at that time will be how severe the load shedding schedule is. So we have sometimes up to half the day there's just no power. It can be up to 4 hours at a time, and then we're on for 2 hours, and then we're off for 2 hours, and then we're on again, and then we're off again. And in a day, the level of load shedding can change. You know what I mean? So you think you're on stage 2, which you planned your whole day, you planned your whole week, because we said, and all of a sudden you're in stage 6, and it's just like, so I'm finding that in terms of the work that I do is a challenge, and I think a lot of us in my country are finding it because it's so out of your control, and yet I've learned how reliant we are on power. We are so reliant on it for entertainment, for food, for work, because I do so much of my work online. Mm-hmm. So there's two things. There's the actual physical. How do we then set up solar systems and, solar power and find batteries and inverters so that we can keep working at home. So we've got to then get the finances for that. So that's been our challenge right now, is trying to find out what works for this home and for the needs of my partner and I. We both work from home, so we need to find a system that would help us. But it's also the emotional side of coping with that. And I'm seeing it as for what it is, right? So that's something I do teach a lot around is the power of acceptance. And by acceptance, I don't mean that it's like you give up and it's just okay that the government has stuffed up our electricity. I'm not accepting that. I will go and vote, and I will, voice and contribute where I can to shift things so that hopefully the people in power can actually keep our lights on. But it's more the acceptance I'm talking about is acknowledging that this is the reality of my day-to-day life and not fighting it, because I've found in the early stages, and I see it with so many people around me, when the power goes off, it is so much anger and frustration. And so for the next 2 hours, you're just in this horrible mood, and then everyone's aggressive on the road, and they're all hooting to see who can go through the traffic, the intersection, and it just becomes this. Whereas I'm like, so I've tried on, and it's for me, I feel way more at peace. I don't like it. I don't accept it. I hope it will not be like this forever. But it is the reality that we're in. So how do I work with it? How do I plan my day better so that I make sure all my phone and my laptop are charged, so that when the electricity is scheduled to go off, if it goes off when it's meant to, you know what I mean? I can still work. I can still do something productive. And I've even worked out I need to change so that I'm working on the computer when we have power, and I'm doing other work, reading, writing, thinking, planning, that doesn't need the computer when I don't have power. So I don't have daytime. So that's one challenge that is really, if you ask any South African right now, they will tell you it's a very challenging time to be in this country. But I suppose it develops our resourcefulness and our sense of community. I mean, we've got a lot of friends in that live in different zones, so they would be load shed at different times. But part of it, so the side effects of load shedding is we have outages. It can be with no power for 3 days if something breaks. So then we've started to, okay, well, if you are stuck, come to me to work or to, charge your batteries. And then when I'm stuck, I'll come to you if you've got power. So that sense of community and helping each other out. And then as a country, we're finding a common voice to hold our government more accountable. And because we've got this common situation in such a diverse country. Mm-hmm. So sorry, a very long story, but yeah, big challenge right now is just how do we function when the most basic things, because the lack of electricity affects our water, because the pumps can't pump the water into the reservoirs. So sometimes we're without water for a day or two. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a very interesting time to be in South Africa.
I love that, because I believe personally that it is good to hear that story now on my podcast, because people are mostly not aware of it, that these situations could easily come to other countries like the US, like England, Germany, like countries that you would think, oh, they function pretty well, they are rich, but these things can come quicker than you think. And as I read a couple of months ago, for Germany, it is estimated that this will 100% come to Germany, that there will be a lack of electricity, especially if people still heavily rely on the state, right? On the state to deliver everything, right? And I see a big problem in that. But whenever people give away their responsibility to someone, one entity, that tries to handle it all, it is only natural that this entity will miss the target, right? once or twice or, consistently. Which is why I feel it is very important for people to be independent as much as possible, whether it is their health, whether it is electricity, energy, water. Water will be a huge problem in the world, and we already can see that, right? People are still not very consciously aware of this thing, and they are still acting like everything will be fine in the next 10 years, but it will not be. So I think it is really important for us to hear your story and the actual reality that you have to go through, because it's not an exception. It will be the norm, or could become a norm very quickly worldwide, as more and more people will rely on energy, right? They will be connected to the internet, they will be connected to electricity. In countries where there was no electricity or poor electricity, you just have to imagine the resources are not endless, right? At least from a physical standpoint of view, they're not endless, right? So if we don't find new means to have enough electricity for us all, it is only natural that there will be some sort of a collapse or a phase, a few years or months, where it will be very tumultuous and difficult. And we will not have enough resources. So we will come to you then. We will ask you how you handled it, and again, we would need good management of our own emotions. We would need courage. We would need self-esteem. We would need confidence to go through these tough situations, right? And even I sometimes experience that when I travel around Europe. You would think all European countries are so developed and so great, but sometimes you just have no internet for an hour, right? Because the connection is not premium, or you would experience water outages, right? Where you have either no hot water, no water at all, or just in general, not enough resources, sometimes not enough food. Especially right now, right? Since the war has started, I explicitly feel that in all European countries that I travel to, that you don't have certain foods that you can buy, or the prices are incredibly high, right? Like for other products. So this is a huge and important topic that should not be missed on this podcast. So I do appreciate you sharing it with us. It is really important to stay conscious about that, because it not only affects us, right? It affects our children, and it could affect future generations if we don't act right now, if we don't have those courageous conversations.
There we go.
Yes. Yeah. I'm totally in your boat.
You touched on something else, which for me, it's like the flexibility. I think with the way the world is now and where it's going, with all this complexity and this, as you say, the limited resources and how it is going to impact us, there's no chance that it can't be. We're not taking enough action now so we need to develop the inner ability to be flexible and resilient. And that does take courage, and all these things we're speaking about, they all mixed with each other. The more resilient we are, the more courageous we can be, and the more courageous we can be, the more confident we can be, and they all feed into each other. But we need to develop a flexibility. And also, you did bring up a good point. I think that was my attitude that I'm trying to help people think about in terms of dealing with the load shedding in South Africa, is that we need to take responsibility for ourselves and not play the blame game, because then we're just pointing fingers and the government, why aren't they giving us power? Yes, they should, right? And we're paying for the service. Absolutely, we have to hold them accountable. But if we just sit in victim mode, you still don't get your food cooked at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Is you just, all you're doing is moaning, and your blood pressure goes up and you're so that's what I mean. It's the flexibility and the inner resilience to say, this sucks, and we're going to hold our governments accountable. We're going to have the courageous conversations with them. But at the same time, I'm going to try and enjoy my day. And I'm going to go and we call it braaiing, or, overseas it's barbecue. We're going to, have a braai outside and enjoy the blue skies and cook our meat on the braai more often. so that we, because we don't have electricity for the ovens. Yes, so let's be more resilient and develop that inner flexibility to adjust to what life throws us, so that we can still progress and enjoy ourselves and try and fix these things.
Absolutely.
Not to give up.
And when clients come to you and want to work with you, what do you believe are the 3 main benefits that someone would have working with you compared to another courage coach?
So the one is, I'm really good at holding people accountable to what they say their dream is, and helping them to get from where they are to where they want to be, but in a very supportive, encouraging, but yet challenging way. So like, I don't let my clients off the hook. If they say to me that's where they want to go and they're really sure, and we've checked and then that's where we're going to go. We're going to get there to what they say they want to achieve and what they know they're capable of. And often I can see that potential in them and will hold it for them if they need to, until they are able to do it themselves. So that accountability and I think challenge, yet support and encouragement is something that is. But I think, if I'm thinking now from what the feedback I've got from other people, it's the depth of understanding of the concepts that I have managed to develop. And I think that comes from my own journey. A lot of these ideas that I help people develop and apply in their lives, I have and I live them. So I really get what I mean when I talk about true self-esteem and confidence and courage, and how to have courageous conversations, because I do them and I can share examples from my own life, to help people understand that. So there's a depth of understanding of that, but also how to develop these capacities. I've really spent a lot of years researching it, reading from other people, being coached myself a lot, unpacking what worked for me, what did I do, what are the new beliefs and how do I get here, and then calling on other experts. I'm not the one that, like the growth mindset, I've learned so much from Carol Dweck and Heidi Grant Hamilton, 2 people that I think have done amazing research and work in terms of the growth mindset. So we call on their work, but for me, I suppose the benefit with working with me is I really get it and can help you and have a way of hearing what's not being said or where the misinterpretation is. I think I drive my partner a bit crazy sometimes, because I'm like, did you mean this? Or actually, I think she meant that. But it's
I love that.
It's just something that I have is being able to put myself in another person's shoes and hear where the miscommunication is happening, so that we can correct it, we can create more understanding, because that understanding, when you get it in your muscle memory, when you absolutely understand the concepts that I help people, understand, you live it, because you've incorporated it, you got it into your corpse. It just becomes your way of being, because it's like, I don't know, there's switches in your brain that it's just, I get this now, so now I can live it. I'm not, So I don't know if that's 3, but I think that's and that's what I love doing, is just really helping people make the connections and help see where what's missing, and spark something, or take that spark that's in them, because I don't think it's not there. I think it's just sometimes we find that spark and flame it, add air so that it becomes a flame, and then they go and contribute, they go and in their circles make an impact. It's also wonderful for me is that there's this ripple effect. If I can help leaders and professionals do better in being themselves and contributing, they become better leaders and they help their team function better, and it affects their home life, so they're better in their home life. And that ripple effect is benefit I get is watching that.
What I love about this is that you say that you ingrain it so much into people that it is part of their corpse. I love that, because it is then lasting, right? It's not like a marketing gimmick or something just to get your next 100 clients or something. It is really something you expand your own existence by incorporating something really deep down into every cell of your body, right? You become a new, maybe not a new, but an expanded version of yourself. And I love that approach. This is so much better than any kind of tactics, gimmicks, or even lies, right? That people sometimes use to get something, right? Or to achieve a certain goal. Never like that kind of path. So I really love how you phrase it and how you work, because it's not only authentic, but it's also lasting, right? You then can go out and not only will you achieve a certain goal, the most immediate goal that you're working with clients right now, but they will benefit with this type of coaching all their lives, because now that they have expanded themselves, they will be able to tackle problem X and problem A, for example, right? In a whole different area of life, they will all of a sudden be capable of solving new problems, right? From the teachings that you gave them. So I totally love that.
Now, I was just going to say, sustainability is a core value of mine, a core, so not only trying to do my own recycling and grow my own veggies, to be sustainable and help the environment, using eco-friendly cleaning products, those are my little ways. But also in the work I do, it must be a sustainable, real change. I would have hated, if I think back to, if I'd done all that work on myself with those coaches, and then when the coaching ended, I'm back to where I was, the shy, quiet, blushing girl who couldn't, say anything. You speak, boo to her, and I would burst into tears. I mean, the difference from then to who I am now, it has to be a real sustainable change. Otherwise, what are we doing? So, I mean, I should maybe let people know, that kind of work is real work. It's not, I don't do little plaster on the top of it. We get to the core of the matter and we shift things, and it doesn't mean it's a horrible, difficult, tearful process. Sometimes it's joyful and it's funny, and it's learning about ourselves, and that aha moment when you get that difference between esteem and confidence. It's like the light bulb goes. It's a wonderful experience. So it's hard work and it's real work, but it's not always difficult and it's not always uncomfortable. But even if it is, to me, it's worth it. Because when you come out the other side, you don't know what you're missing when you're stuck in this way of thinking. It's until you get there, you see things so differently. You experience the world so differently. I mean, I can tell you just from, 20 years ago to now, the difference in my experience, the difference in my health, the difference in the quality of my relationships. I didn't know this was possible then, until I started on this journey, and now I'm experiencing it. So I often tell my clients, it's okay, you haven't had a taste of it yet, because you've been stuck in this way of seeing and experiencing this world. Hang in there. You will gain a new experience, a new reference point, and then you'll see there's a whole... Life doesn't have to be as difficult as we make it out to be, in relationships and that. There's a lot of joy as well, and ease that can come from just dealing with some of our less useful strategies and putting down some baggage and processing a few things.
I totally love that. Fully are in your world. It's so fun talking to you. And I had probably 100 or 1,000 more questions for you. I really loved having you on my podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Telana, and answering my questions and expanding my thinking about courage and confidence, self-esteem. And I will definitely be looking more into your work. This is really beautiful what you're doing. And for my listeners, I will leave all the links to Telana Simpson in the description below. So if you want to contact Telana, feel free to do so. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you, Ellen. Thank you for the space and the wonderful questions. And I've really enjoyed our discussion. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
This has been Let's Talk Courageous Communication, and I'm Telana Simpson. I hope you go now and have some courageous conversations that really matter and make a difference in your life. Till next time, have a good week.